You're listening to the Devil Dog Talk Show.
This show contains explicit material and is recommended for ages 18 and older for mature audiences only. But hey, it's the internet.
All right, so today on the Devil Dog Talk Show, we got Nick Todd and Saint Stephen Yim. I'm going to go ahead and use all three, just so everybody can understand that. And we're going to refer to him as Saint for the rest of the show. People get along with it or go along with it, whatever which way you need to deal with that. Today we're going to be discussing something pretty in-depth and something that a lot of veterans experience, which is difficulty, adversity while going through the VA rating and that entire process of getting benefits for whether it be disability or even education. There's always seems to be a bit of a road ahead. So today we're going to be talking about ReMedical, and we have Nick Todd, who's going to be discussing a little bit more exactly what they do and how you can connect and what type of things you can expect with him. And then we're going to go over to Saint, and Saint's going to go ahead and bring us in on his personal experience through ReMedical and what they were able to help him do, and also a bit about himself, his journey through the Marine Corps, as well as transitioning into now social media and being quite the interesting fellow. I was watching one of your videos today, and it just made me have a great laugh, and I very much enjoy anything that makes me smile. All right,
Sorry, I had to do that.
It's great, dude. It was the dick punch. I was like, what is that? And so, just so everybody knows, what we're going to be talking about may be a bit stressful, but the goal is to provide resources. Okay, so we're going to roll right into it, and we're just going to have our gentlemen here today introduce ourselves. So thank you for both of you being on today at the Devil Dog Talk Show. Stephen Saint Yim and Nick Todd. Go ahead, Nick, first. Introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit about you.
It's great to be here, Joey. I'm in San Diego.
Beautiful.
I got stationed out here almost 20 years ago with the Coast Guard. I'm a proud Coastie and had quite a journey. My wife likes to joke that I collect experiences, but really kind of looked out and landed at ReMedical, which is a really amazing company. And currently I'm the director of strategic partnerships here at ReMedical, working with outreach in the veteran community and really trying to shine a light on the different VSOs nationwide that are really doing amazing things for veterans and supporting their mission as well as telling our story.
That's awesome. And so how long have you been with ReMedical?
Just started. So I'm going on month 2 here at Re. I actually transitioned into Re from the cybersecurity space and had a great journey there. It really set me up and gave me the skills and the strategy to really come on board and do something fun and great here. But I do feel like everything is put in place for a reason, and this is definitely a dream job for me, working with our veteran community again and kind of tying back into my own personal experience.
Awesome. That's actually a very just humbling experiences. You know, I was just thinking, like, when you said you're brand new and you're getting started, I'm like, dude, you know, every journey is a bit it has its grace period, right? It's learning curve. And for me, it's just such an interesting line to focus in on, because from where you were, right, from just a few months ago to now, how would you compare your mindset in the veteran community?
That's a great question. You know, when I first retired from the Coast Guard back in 2008, actually, so I was dating myself a bit, but it was very up in the air, right? The transition period for me was a bit of a rough one, just because it had that medical piece that I was trying to go through, fight, and really get the benefits that I needed to go on. But, you know, I was a teacher for a while. I actually was one of the education directors on the USS Midway in San Diego, the big aircraft carrier museum.
Nice.
And And through that, started working. I was extremely involved in veteran service organizations through that because of the support that we gave them here in San Diego. And San Diego is a hot spot for amazing organizations for our veteran community. And in particular, working with a VSO called the Travis Manion Foundation. I have extremely close ties to them and their message. They're working with not only veterans, but Gold Star family members and children. And it's a great mission, but created a partnership with them way back when I was on the Midway, almost 7 years ago. Absolutely loved it. Really knew that's, those win-win relationships in business was what I was called to, creating those strong relationships with our veteran community. And then I took a turn from that simply for reasons of supporting my family in Southern California. But everything that I experienced in the tech space, going into channel management, channel director position, building actual, partnership programs and pipelines, and it all set me up to do what I was doing on the Midway even better. And so it almost feels like this was such a natural transition for me. Maybe the first natural transition that I've had since I left the military. And so I'm extremely excited about what ReMedical is doing and what I get to do in this partnership role, in really shining a light and supporting our veteran community. So I feel kind of right at home right now. First time I've felt right at home in quite a while.
That's a beautiful feeling, man. That is actually a very great feeling. I know exactly what you're talking about. And that's something that, I think every veteran and every man, the whole Frank Merkel, I think his name is, the search for purpose or search for meaning, that's a very important aspect of life. All right. So Saint Yim, let's kick it over to you, bro. So you yourself, sir, let's go ahead and get a little bit of an introduction, brother. What is it that you did in the Marine Corps, and how was your journey while you were in and that transition, and also just a little bit about yourself?
So as we mentioned before, my real name is obviously not Saint. That's my dog's name, but I'm a content creator. My main platforms right now are Instagram and TikTok as I transition through other platforms, but those are two my main ones. Was in the Marines for about 6 years. The majority of that time I was a Marine security guard. So essentially it's a fancy security guard at the embassies. It was a good time, best and worst time of my life for sure, but it was amazing. Wouldn't trade it for the world. I think I understand that I got a very, very unique experience in the military that a lot of people don't get. Some people tend to walk away from the military pretty jaded. I got to experience, what it's like being on a team, a really close-knit team where it's just us. There's no one else. There's big boy rules. We don't have, the Marine Corps breathing down our necks the whole time. It's more of, everyone do your job, everyone pull your weight, show up to work, do your work. When you're off, you're off. Go do your thing. Just conduct yourself professionally as a representative of the Marine Corps and the United States of America internationally. When people come into the embassies, we're the first person they see. So conduct yourself professionally, but have a good time while you're at it. I think it's easy to join the military. I don't think people quite understand that the hardest part of the military is it starts after you get out. It is, I would argue, probably one of the it's a lonely path when you get out. It's not lonely because you're necessarily alone. You still have people around you, but you just get, it's that reverse culture shock. You've been institutionalized in a very, very, there's not many jobs out there like the military, and there's definitely not a lot of cultures out there like the military. So when you get out, it's a complete shock. You were put in a time capsule. People learn to live their lives without you. People have moved on. And you come back and you just try to adjust back to it. But I think, what makes the military so special is also what makes it so hard is when you get out is that camaraderie and that purpose is kind of taken away, right?
Exactly.
So leading after that, I was blessed enough to have gone to school for a little bit where there was a really good veteran community. But even then, it's so different trying to blend back in because you're not the same as everyone else. You're just different. Now I'm a full-time content creator. I've tried to balance between comedic sketches, but also, my main thing is fragrances and watches.
Really?
Yeah, that's
awesome.
You guys can't. The backdrop's not here. My backdrop's in my room for when I film that stuff. But I have over 100 bottles of cologne, and I have a few watches up there. Recently, just purchased a nice watch for myself because I decided, I haven't treated myself in a while. But I think it really, don't get me wrong, I love making content. And it's definitely, I'm not at the level I want to be at, but I am living the life that I want to live. And I know I'm on the right path. Had it not been for Ree though, I feel like Ree came in at the perfect time. I have always wanted to kind of help the future generations, be worth emulating, so to speak. And so a podcast was always something that's one of my next projects. But leading the next generation and just helping them turn into the best version of themselves was always something that I was very passionate about and that I wanted to do. I think coming from the military, we all have a unique perspective and we owe it to ourselves and to the world to bring what we've gone through and help other people through our experiences. And having gone through re-medical myself after getting my claims denied through the VA, going through getting everything approved, I understand how big of a change and how big of an opportunity you give yourself when you have a financial foundation that from the VA, right? From the disability that you rate, from the disability that you actually earned, that financial foundation allows you to really pursue your dreams, and actually pursue your passions. And I think with that financial foundation, it's essentially another source of income. You have no excuse to not make something of yourself. And the more veterans we help, the more veterans that we kind of get them to help themselves, the more that they can help other people. And so I think that's one thing I love about re-medical is it's helping these veterans get to a better point in life that will ultimately get them to a better version of themselves. Because people can sit here and say, "Oh, money's not everything." You'd be lying to yourself if you said you don't need money.
That is the truth. That is the truth, bro. Honestly, I love how you brought that up because I think that's one of the best dynamic conversations in the community as a whole, not just right now, but through all generations, because we've had a tremendous amount of history, both in the Marine Corps, the Coast Guard, the Navy, the Army, not so much the Space Force just yet, but the Air Force and everything else, right? Where you're traditionally groomed or it's inundated into your psyche to not ask for help, and to the word benefit and welfare and disability, and everybody, you hear these words and I feel like it's more triggering than the actual stuff we went through sometimes. I was having this conversation with my wife. I really do believe that the VA experience was more traumatic, more stressful than the combat experience that I had, simply because I had more control during the combat experience. I was physically doing stuff as a corpsman. And to hear that you went from security teams with the embassies, which a lot of people don't understand, is a high stress, high value. You're literally that thing. There's movies about it. Everybody talks about Benghazi and all this stuff, and the history and the traditions of Marines being the Guard on those specific ports of entry, being the embassy, right? There's a huge tradition behind it. And they teach you guys to be so regimented that it's kind of difficult to say, yeah, when you get out, you're going to have to, go through this whole humbug of what the VA is going to approve and deny. And personally, going through that, what was the feeling or the sensation when you first got your first ratings back or denied service connection? What did that do to your, and I don't want you to go down a pitfall. I'm not trying to put you back in a hole, but what was that like for you? Right?
I think, why don't we have Nick, do you want to take this one? I think because you went through the traditional route, so you have a much better handle on how terrible it can be.
Yeah, Nick, if you want to chime in on that, if you had more of that headache of an experience, feel free.
Yeah. So yeah, my time in the Coast Guard was, I like to call it luck. And that I actually got to experience the things that I did. I grew up as a goofball. I'm a comedian at heart, and I was always kind of the guy that everyone in the crew would say, "Hey, that would be really funny if someone did that," but we'd all get in trouble, and then I would do it. So yeah, we can tell sea stories later. But yeah, got a chance to support search and rescue operations out of Kodiak, Alaska, and up in the Bering Sea, and then shifted gears. Was part of an amazing crew that deployed to the South Pacific, and was directly a part of one of the largest counter narcotics busts in maritime history. And so for me, that was just all luck. But throughout that time on deployment, I developed what is now, I believe, called swimmer's lung. Unfortunately, just recently had a really eye-opening experience when I read about a service member that was going through a pretty rigorous training, and right after the training was completed, had what I had, and what passed away, simply because he didn't have the care needed. So I had an eye-opening experience that I was truly lucky in my military experience. And after, when I was finally given my DD-214, it was a temporary medical retirement for 5 years, meaning that if the condition that ended up scarring 40% of my lung tissue before I got out actually got better miraculously, they could call me back to service. But because of that, it was extremely hard to even start the VA process, because I didn't have a medical retirement. I had obvious, connection to or service connection with what I was going through with the scar tissue in my lungs. But it was extremely hard to get outside care, outside of Navy hospitals, because I was temporarily retired and my care was still fully under. So I couldn't get the paperwork that I needed from the medical specialist, and it took me 10 years. My wife and I sat down and actually looked at the paperwork of when I started. It took me just over a decade to finally get a 100% rating based on 40% scar tissue, based on essentially severe adult asthma for the rest of my life, based on being completely my body was basically the high dose corticosteroids that I had to take, and the long-term effects from that.
Just being bombarded with all those chemicals, right?
It was just, yeah. And at the time, for that first 5 years, it very much felt like the treatment that I was getting was just sustaining me. It wasn't it was fully military medical. It was treating the symptoms, but it wasn't looking at long-term effects. It was basically, let's keep this guy alive for 5 years, and then we can, permanently at least discharge him. So I went through that paperwork process myself. I did everything I needed to do, hunting down things, working a full-time job and supporting a family, and trying to get the medical benefits for my family that I needed, that my family needed, that would, like Saint said, put us in that ability to have, a better income and survive. So did all of the paperwork myself, and it finally went through. I went through 5 separate ratings with the VA, and through appeals processes and getting the right paperwork that I needed, as opposed to something that was very similar but just not quite there. Seeing the right medical specialist, it was heartbreaking. 4 separate ratings, and then finally got that 100%. But I would say the biggest thing about that, you kind of alluded to perfectly, Joey, is the anxiety and the stress that causes. For me, I finally was able to get it done, and it took me 10 years. But after every single one of those ratings that came back that just wasn't where it needed to be, and I knew it needed to be there, it was the anxiety and the stress of, well, maybe I don't deserve this. Maybe maybe my jacked up lungs and 40% scar tissue and having to carry a rescue inhaler around for the rest of my life, maybe that's not good enough. And maybe what I went through wasn't quite good enough, but just the stress and the anxiety of each of those denials, or each of those miscalculated percentages. So yeah, that was my experience. I mentioned that I'm extremely passionate to be at a company like ReMedical, and the reason is there's a lot of resources out there that will point you to the right medical specialist, or will point you to where to find the right paperwork. But ReMedical is doing something completely different. And I know that, Saint, you can speak to this as well. They're doing something that's revolutionary, in my opinion, in that they're actually building the national network of medical providers, of specialists that are trained to do this, and not just pointing you to the right direction. They're saying, here, go see this specific person that is a part of our network, and we're gonna get it done for you. And I know that if I had that resource, it would have taken me 6 months to do what I did in 10 years. And it would have saved a lot of heartache and anxiety,
Yeah. Like, honestly, I can see the expression on your face, and that's kind of what I want to avoid, but also want to peel back the layers too, because Saint's over there, I guarantee you he's had, his experience with and, getting those initial denials, transition, stuff like that. But gentlemen like you and myself that had to do the 10 to 12 year, let's just call it a grace period, right?
Yeah, I feel so spoiled right now. I'm just like, oh, dude.
But that's great. That's the reason why I honestly believe that guys like me and Nick go through it, so we can speak the accolades to success, right? Yeah. We can emphasize the need for something like that and say, dude, look at the success story. So let's bounce over to Saint. Saint, when you are, since you are the poignant success story here, let's exemplify, right? What was your contrasting experience then compared to Nick there? Because me and Nick could sit here for, I guarantee you, hours going, yeah, I was pulling my hair out. I was thinking this, that, and the third, big. And I'm going like, and that's what I love. You pass the puck over to Nick real quick, and I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, people need to hear like how bad you can have it.
Yeah, exactly. So fill in the blanks, man. What was your experience like comparatively?
Yeah, so I mean, people don't realize about the military is that you feel you are. It's like you mentioned earlier, Joey. It is in our culture to not ever tell anybody that if we're hurting. Like, that is looked up, like that is romanticized actually, is being able to suffer in silence. That is a very valuable skill when you're in, but it completely screws you over when it comes to the VA and the processes that you have to go through, because we all know that someone out there has it way worse than us. No matter how bad we have it, there's somebody that's gone through it worse. And so you feel like a scumbag, like trying to get help. And on top of that, I would imagine that every time like they denied you, Nick, like you don't want to have to say that you're more broken or that you're more hurt than, you're like, okay, so now I've got to word it in a way that makes it sound even worse than I've already said it. And I'm just trying to like get what I rate. I'm just trying to get what I deserve.
Yeah.
And even going to the VA for any kind of disability, people don't realize how many veterans don't do that in the first place because they feel like a scumbag. They're like, oh, I don't rate anything. Like, I didn't even have it that bad. I didn't get deployed. I didn't do whatever it may. Like, I had friends when I first went back to college. They were like, oh, I never deployed. So like, and these were grunts, you know, like, I'm like, dude, you did a lot of field ops. You rucked. Like, even if you didn't see combat, you did what your job was. You did what you need. You didn't get to go play in the real game, you know, but that doesn't mean your body isn't busted prepping for it, right? Exactly. You didn't get the problems that come from seeing combat. You didn't get those issues, but all the stuff that you have to go through to prep for it, like it's all hard. It takes a toll, you know? Like rucking builds mental toughness, but it does nothing good for your body. It just breaks your like hips down and whatnot.
All the cartilage.
So yeah, like it's really bad for your body. It's great for mental toughness and you know, building up, just knowing how to suffer. But it just breaks your body down. So my experience, I was initially rated at 80%, and I didn't go to the VA for like the first 2 years. So I was like, dude, I don't deserve anything. Like, I'm still be able to walk. Like, there's no point. And then my friend was like, dude, this is not like, swallow your pride, because one day when you have a family, like, you really want to sit, like, what if you have to get shoulder surgery one day and it's service connected, and then you're gonna have to pay out of pocket because you have nothing on file. You didn't file for any disability. So now you have only yourself to blame for having to pay all this, and like, for what? Like, some pride and like to feel like, oh, I'm noble, because like the military makes you romantic. There's some type of noble romanticization that happens of not getting helped and just sacrificing yourself for what you think is for the benefit of others. And what people don't understand is not getting help from the VA does not mean you're giving it to somebody else. You are not. People are always like, "Oh, you're taking help from the people that really." It's like, no, that's not how it works.
You're not paying it forward, like, whatsoever.
You're not paying it forward at all. You're just paying like the price for doing nothing.
That's huge.
So I got a pretty decent military rating, and I'm sure a lot of veterans also do this. Is whatever you get first, you just settle for it. You're like, all right, that's that. You know, it is what it is. But a childhood friend of mine, we were catching up. He was also in the Marines, and he was like, "Oh, I got 100%. I got maxed out." And I was like, "What? How? Like, what did you do?" And he was like, "Oh, there's like a third party that I went through." And then he talked to me about re-medical, and I was like, "Okay." You know, like, it sounded too good to be true, but this guy, he's a childhood friend of mine. There's no benefit to him to lying to me about this, you know? And lo and behold, like, thank God, at the time I was like dipping into savings to live here. I was still trying to find my way as a full-time content creator, you know, like, I decided to go. I had enough of a following where I stopped going to school because it's okay. I have enough of a foothold. I can really pursue this and see where this goes. But with not going to school anymore, I'm not getting the help from the GI Bill,
right? Which
is, you know, a huge chunk of change for a college student, especially.
It's substantial. Yeah, it's very substantial.
Yeah, it's huge. So now I'm like, okay, dude, I need to figure something out. And luckily, going through re-medical completely changed the trajectory of my life. Like, that financial foundation of getting everything that was done. And it was such obvious things that I got to, I'm like, you can clearly tell my feet and my ankles and my knees would be jacked up. Like, it doesn't take a lot for that to happen in this job. Like these are very, very easy. Oh yeah, this is the job he had. He probably would. So I'm like, okay, so I got the stuff that you didn't even test me for, but you're telling me the stuff that I can clearly show lack of mobility and like flex. How does that make sense? And the thing is, and the thing with the VA is just like, they get so many people. It's just like, you don't feel like they're actually taken care of, or they're taking care of you. You feel more like they're just trying to get you out of the way. And thank God I went through Reed Medical. I didn't have to go through what Nick did. And I was recently talking to one of my college professors recently, because I wanted to bring this to some of the college students of the veteran community there. And man was a Vietnam War vet, Green Beret, and he's only getting compensated at 90%, but he's rated at like 180 or something like that on like how much of it's compiled and like cumulative rate. Obviously, the most you can get compensated for is 100, but he's rated at 180, but he's only getting compensated at 90. And this dude was served in the Vietnam War, Green Beret, saw multiple like combat tours, and then on top of that, like it's clear he would rate 100%, but he and a lot of other, especially older veterans out there, they just give up. They just give up on getting 100%, which is really unfortunate, because these are the guys that really laid down the legacy and like the shoes for us to fill, and they're the ones not getting help.
That is so
and on top
true.
of that, there's a lot of predatory companies out there that take advantage of guys like him, because it's like, oh, they're getting old, they don't have much, they're just gonna milk them, but I can proudly say like Reed Medical is not like, that's why he's given up on it, because there's so many people out there that are just trying to milk them, or like the VA just doesn't give them that much help, and they just see their friends not getting the help that they need either, and they didn't know about companies like Reed Medical. Like, and that's the thing with the military is, and I would say the government in general, like if you owe the government money at all, they will absolutely come collect. But if there's a way for you to get the money that you are entitled to from the government, from the military, they are not going to openly broadcast that. They won't hide it per se, but they are not going to openly broadcast it so that they make sure like, hey, these are the resources at your disposal. You can go through other parties before you get to the VA. They're not going to tell you those things. And if I hadn't met up with my friend, I wouldn't have known about it. I would just be stuck at 80%. And mind you, that the jump from 80% to 100 is damn near double.
Yeah.
It is a significant increase. Had it not been for Reed Medical, I would not be where I'm at today. I wouldn't have been able to take the risks that I had taken, because I wouldn't have had that backup plan of like, there's a peace of mind knowing my rent's going to be covered, food will be covered, car's covered. Like I know in the back of my head, no matter how terribly I do, I will have my basic needs met. I'll be fine. So that allows me to really like have more of an abundance mindset, and you can actually go out and really try to pursue things without the sole purpose of like, oh, I need to get by on rent. It's like, no, that's covered. I can truly, truly try to make a change,
That is awesome. Honestly, like just hearing your passion behind it, right? And just knowing the fact that if this didn't come into your life, you would have repeated the same history that me and Nick had. And it's for no substantial reason. There's
just given up.
Yeah. I met so many people just recently too, talking to one of my the fathers on my kids' soccer team. Right. We sit on the sidelines and you end up finding out, and you guys, everybody can kind of see each other. We could read each other. You're like, I bet that guy served. And so we started talking, and him and his wife and I and my wife were talking about the lengths we had to go through. Kind of like what you were talking about, the Vietnam veteran. One, you feel like a pile of shit for asking for anything and getting anything more than somebody like that. Right. And then two, you're having to experience something that is completely sacrificial. There's no benefit. There's no benefit for him. There's no benefit for you. There's no, and I say this repeatedly, there's no incentive for the VA to perform better, because they're going to get their hundreds of billions of dollars anyway, right? They're going to, when they're failing and it's 22 a day, 23 a day, 25 a day, 457,000 a year, wherever it may be, they get to turn around and be like, hey, we need more money, right? There's no incentive for performance. So hearing that, you were, I'm not saying you were saved, even though your name is Saint, right? I'm like, there is some kind of coalescence here where you could look at the parallels and say, where's the lines of intersection, right? Where is it that, we could reach out to these veterans, we can get them to file the claims, we can get them to where they need to be. Well, that's simple. Connect them to ReMedical, right? And having these two contrasting stories, and I hope our listeners really respect this, because I know we've gone into depths of just everything on the show, between congressional reference codes to new bills like the Richard Starr Act, the Major Richard Starr Act that helps retired veterans get both their retirement and their medical benefits, right? Which is huge, because why are you being limited? I'm not trying to do the comparison to Congress and everybody else and all these sexy guys with purple this and Bronze Star, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Those are the absolute minimums, right? The percentages a lot of people don't know, especially in the civilian community, is 0.000000001% are those tip of the spear, like super sexy roles. And the other is 99.09999%, because you got to fill in that blank right there, right? Is every guy day to day. And Saint, you brought it up, like some guys, they don't feel that, well, I didn't deploy, so I don't deserve anything. I'm like, why? Like, dude, you signed the contract. This is called a legal obligation, right? Let's go back to the whole ethical, moral belief system that the military instills in us. Like, I'm pretty sure everybody here had to spread their butt cheeks at MEPS, right? Yeah. Solid.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it.
Right? And I go, for sure. I remember feeling so awkward because the old man goes, spread your cheeks, bend over. And I'm like bent over, and he goes, hold on. And he's looking at my feet, and he goes, I'm going to bring in a colleague real quick. And I'm sitting there and I'm butt naked, and I'm like, okay, cool. And his colleague comes in and they're staring at me, and I swear to God, there's something wrong with my butthole. And they're like, no, your arches, we can't tell if they're muscular or if they're flat. And if they're flat, you can't get in. I'm like, no, I wrestled my whole life. It's just I'm muscular. They're like, okay. By the way, nice ass. I'm like, okay, great. Come on, guys. Pull it together. So to kind of piggyback, I love that. I love that fucking Marine Corps officer saying, to piggyback off of Saint, it's amazing that, we can discuss these things now and circumvent those heartaches and headaches and emotional peaks and troughs for our community.
Well, yeah, Saint nailed it earlier when he said, one of your goals is to be an influential, veteran for other people, coming after you and use your platform in that way. And, Joey, it's exactly, you and I went through that 10 years, 12 years of heartache, but now we're able to use that story to really influence the next generation of veterans coming through and going through, starting that heartbreak and starting that trial period. Now we can really use those stories to help other veterans. So
true up. Now, to move a bit forward, and I wanted to focus back on the Saint again, because you hit a very good experience with the Vietnam veteran. Now, as an influencer, because you do have a pretty great following. I'm working with a few other Marines and veterans that are, in the influential space. And I think that's such a good, you brought it up, be worth emulating, right? I love that you brought that up, because that tells me, one, the way you brought it up, right? It just seems like there's a great opportunity, not just for influences or influencers, but for gentlemen like yourself, because your reach is going to help people circumvent those experiences. Now, when you say something like be worth emulating, what is it that you see yourself developing into, as well as the relationship with ReMedical? And I'm not just saying promoting ReMedical, but to actually proliferate the message of, hey guys, like, get your claims in. All right, let's get that first step down. What does that near future? What does that first steps look like for you when you want to become that thing that others can emulate?
So I think for me, I was blessed enough to have a lot of amazing mentors in my life. And I think it's always good to have goals, right? If you don't have goals, you should probably start setting them. But I have a man that I want to be, right? And that's what I mean by, be worth emulating, is because that man is worth emulating because he has the best traits from the most amazing mentors that I've had, because my mentors had traits that I want to emulate. And the Reconnaissance Creed has this amazing line in it, and it talks about how Recon Marines, they have traits for all Marines to emulate, and I think setting the example for others, it means becoming the example yourself. And in order to do that, you have to know how to help yourself before you, like a lot of people, especially I see nowadays, you try to help people from this place of scarcity because you yourself want help. So you help other people. You don't know that you're doing it. It's on a subconscious level. What you don't realize is you need to be the help that you so want to yourself. You can do it to yourself. And once you get to a place of abundance, that's when you can truly start helping others. And that's why Remedical was such a big thing for me. It really did get me to a place of abundance in one aspect of my life where I finally if it hadn't been for that, I wouldn't have walked the path that I walk right now. And so I know what 100% disability did for me. And understand, if you're a veteran out there thinking I'm just going to hop on and no, that's not everyone rates. Not everyone's going to rate 100%. Okay. This is a case by case basis, but with Remedical, you're going to get, at least you will have a way better chance at a rating that you probably deserve, as opposed to whatever the least amount that VA is going to. The VA is not going to give you the most they can give. They will give you the least amount that they can get away, settle with, right?
I love how you said that, because that is true. They make you settle.
Veterans are like, oh, dude, how can I get? It's like, okay, let me just ask. Do you rate 100? If you were, no shame to any admins out there, okay, but if you were an admin for your entire career, not having done a single field op, not having done any type of really stressful physical training, and you're gonna sit there and tell me that oh yeah, my back is so stressed out from okay, come on, don't tell me you have tinnitus from really loud noises from your computer. Not
loud ass typing.
Not everyone's gonna rate 100%, but you do need that. Just because you don't rate 100% doesn't mean you don't rate disability. So, but you need to help yourself put that claim in. And with Remedical, you need Remedical, I think, is also a really good opportunity for someone to learn about investing in themselves, right? Investments aren't always 100% guaranteed, but you do so after doing your research and okay, the results speak for themselves. This is a probably good place to invest. This will benefit me. And if this benefits me and this works out, this will allow me to make more changes in my life. It all just comes back to, if you don't do this for yourself, how are you going to help? Because I'm sure there are no veterans sitting out there I don't want veterans to get help. I don't want veterans to get paid for whatever they want. No one's saying that. And if they are, not the person you want to associate with. Help yourself so that you can help others, so that you know how to help others. And that's why I'm so passionate about getting people through. One, this isn't some company that just randomly reached out, because after other companies have seen me promote and seen how passionate I am, but they don't realize I went through RE. There's a reason. RE's not just some random company. They reached out to me to work with them because of the fact that I'd gone through them and I now have a platform, and I want to use that platform for good. And RE's not one of those companies that, dude, these other companies, they completely screw you over on the back end. I'm like, this one brand reached out, and I was like, okay, there's a catch. what's the catch? And they explained it to me like how, like, all the back end stuff, the payment that you have to send up on the back end, like they have way more of an incentive to drag it out as if you were probably going through the VA itself. Remedical is not like that. And I know from experience, and I want this for every veteran out there, because like I said earlier, like, man, the more veterans that we can teach and show them the way of like helping yourself, get yourself what you deserve. Stop thinking like, don't fall into this hero victim mindset of like, oh, I'm going to do this for other veterans. You're not doing it for other veterans. You're like, it's not helping anybody by not helping yourself. On top of that, if you use not having veteran disability or having this money from the government as an excuse of why your life is however negative it is, or why you're not progressing, like, that's a totally victim mindset. And I do see a lot of veterans fall into that, where it's like, oh, like, yeah, I'm not going to get veteran like disability. I'm not going to try to put it in because I don't want to take it from anyone else. But man, it would be so good if I did do it, it'd be so helpful. And then it's like, they wonder why they're not going anywhere in life. It's like, did you help yourself? Or are you going to sit there and blame the circumstances instead of blaming yourself because you didn't take action? Like, you have such a gift after having served in the military. You have a level of loyalty that people outside of the military just don't understand and will never understand. But you can be that example to emulate. You can give that loyalty to people. And even though they might not ever match it because it's not their job to, they weren't in a position where that loyalty needed to be that high. But that doesn't mean you can't show them a little bit of like the good, like in the military. Jocko Willink words this so well. You have a gift where you got to experience the absolute worst, but also examples of the absolute best in humanity. And you should bring that to the world once you leave. But you can't do that if you're not making something of yourself, if you're not actually putting that gift out there. And you're just stuck at home feeling sorry for yourself because, oh, I don't have veteran disability, or I don't have money, I don't have enough to get. Like, do something about it. Did you help yourself? Did you look for the resources? And I want to use my platform to kind of show like, hey, here's some of the resources, right? But ultimately, I want to be like, I know how much of a difference it made. I want to help other people make that difference in their own lives,
So reaching down.
I truly believe.
Yeah.
Like, I want to continue to serve the community. The more people we help, the more people they'll help. And that ripples on like forever and ever and ever.
That's awesome. How you put
honestly,
that.
Yeah. I genuinely believe the more successful veterans we have, it doesn't just mean in social media, it just mean successful within their communities, the better off the world's going to be. There's so much good that comes from having served and experiencing the good and the bad that you did. You can change somebody's life with your experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how you pay it forward.
Yeah. And Remedical helped me. I want as many veterans as possible to know about so that they can absolutely change their lives. Just be successful. And I know that once they're successful, they want to help other veterans get to that level of success. Be like, hey, this is what changed my life. They might have other businesses going on, but the Remedical was a start for me. And I want Remedical to be the same start for everyone.
That's awesome, dude.
You okay?
Now, I like how you brought that up. Yeah. I'm tearing up. No. I like how you bring that up because it's very important. Because like you brought up the romanticism, and I love that word. It is a romanticized effect, an affect to your psyche. It creates dissonance when you reach out for resources, specifically for medical assistance. And being an FMF corpsman, I saw it every single day. People refused to get the help they needed. They wore it like a badge of honor. Like, yeah, I dislocated my ankle on this ruck, but you know what? I made it and blah, 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 blah. Well, bro, you ain't got a ligament left in that thing.
Yeah.
Huh? Okay. Like, that's good. Good job. But your body's not going to be recuperating. This ain't no telenovela. All right, buddy? This ain't Super Saiyan. You're going to eat a sensu bean and be okay. All right. This is the rest of your life. Okay. This is the harder you drive it, the more it will
I
fall
love the
apart.
Dragon Ball
Okay.
reference, by the way.
Me too. I love Dragon Ball Z so much. Anyhow, I do. The reason why too is because I think it paints a perfect picture of that delusional sense of hero and that stoic mindset of just being okay and not complaining. And I think we have to shift mentally as a society. One, of course, I mean, look at where we're at as a whole, but specifically as a veteran community. Now, you bring up gentlemen like Jocko Willink, you know, they have a very hard outer surface, but even he writes a children's book, okay, to help people connect on a level that you need to understand. Taking care of yourself does not look like the same thing for everybody, okay? Asking for help does not look like the same thing for everybody. Your disability ratings and what you rate or what you don't rate, even if you are an admin. And that's where I go off and people really like, they dissociate. Like, why do you defend an Air Force person that got 100% P&T for her wrist? I go, because to her, she ain't no shit else besides typewriting. Okay. That's it. That's her entire career. She did 10 whatever years in the Air Force, typing up whatever long form, you know, trajectory, target, workup, or what. I don't know what Air Force people do, okay? But to me, if I'm going to say and ask for the same set of empathy and compassion or understanding, I have to pay it forward. And that's what I really like what you put there for your platform is be something worth emulating. And structure it with those ethos, the ethics, the moralities that of which have been instilled to you by the Marine Corps or Coast Guard or Navy or Air Force or Space Force or Army.
We don't even know what they do yet.
You know, they probably do something really cool and we just don't know about it. And then like in 20 years, they'll be like, I remember when we were on the moon shooting moon Nazis. Like,
you know, they don't even use canteens. They had in basic training, they had like thermal flasks, like the nice ones. That's what they were carrying around.
Oh my God. You can kill somebody probably with that. Like, I got a thermal flask kill against an ancient alien race on the moon. Like, yeah, that would be dope. Like, I remember reading a story about somebody getting a MRE spoon kill, and I'm like, how do you do that? But those spoons are great.
Yeah.
I gotta be the only. I'm not the only person, but I'm gonna bring it up real quick. It is a little bit of deviation, but my listeners know they love me for this. I save spoons from just about anything if it's a solid spoon, and my wife hates it. We have more like Baskin Robbins. Sorry, it's Thrifty's spoons. They're like just a solid chunk of plastic, dude. And of course, MRE spoons from like years and years ago. I found in my med pack. And like things like that. And she's just like, why do you have this? I go, I don't know. You never know when you're going to need a new spoon. Good spoon, you know. Sporks go a little further, but spoon to do. And it's just one of those things. Yeah. I can't get rid of that habit. She calls me a hoarder. I'm like, whatever. I'm good. But to talk more about that experience that you had, I want to highlight something that you said, that you didn't have to go through something, even though the entire community would probably tell you that you do have to go through this long, treacherous, just tumultuous experience of failure and success. Having to go through the experience of success and failure, being presented through the community, right, with two different kind of ideals, man up and get through it, and some others will be like, no, get the help you need. What does that feel like for each of you when you were going through it? Like, Nick, when you were going through the experience of, you know, those denials, what was the success sensation like when you finally did succeed? And what was the mentality that you were kind of experiencing around your support system that made you either buckle down and get it done or feel like you were failing?
That's a great question. You know, coming out of the Coast Guard, I was extremely proud of my service and what I had done and gotten to experience. Again, I go back, I feel very lucky with what I got. I kind of was one of those right place at the right time guys for most of my career. And I absolutely loved it, but getting out and starting the process, I think, Saint, you mentioned something that really hit home, and that's, you know, every time I got a denial or every time I got a rating that didn't reflect the fact that I couldn't sleep throughout the night without waking up having breathing problems. It made me feel every single denial that came back, every single rating that came back that wasn't where it needed to be because I just didn't have the right. Looking back, it's because I didn't have the right paperwork or I didn't have a signature from the specific right medical specialist that the VA was looking for or needed. So it was an immediate denial or it was immediate pushback. And every time that happened, and it was like, okay, well, maybe this is because I didn't do a combat tour to the Middle East. And so not only was it stressful and there was anxiety there, but then it started to make me question the validity of what I had done for the military and with the amazing group of men and women that I served with. And so it took not only a time commitment toll, of a decade to get where I needed to be, but it also took, the mental toll of the stress and anxiety of not getting what I knew that I needed, as well as, feeling a little bit inferior.
They're not going to tell you what you need either.
Yeah. And they don't.
Yeah, they don't tell you anything.
It's literally a toxic relationship.
Yeah, you have to find that out for yourself. And looking back on it, like I said, it was just that I didn't have the right paperwork. But it took an extreme, mental toll on me, and it really took for me. It took the support of my family, my wife, my father, who is a Navy veteran, and gone through that process. And getting involved in those veteran service organizations that I'm extremely passionate about spreading the word for now. And here at ReMedical, not only supporting and driving their mission, but also giving back to them financially, and helping support their mission as well. Another unique thing that we're doing here. But yeah, it took that veteran community kind of coming around me and affirming me and saying, no, man, you're pretty messed up. You need to get this relooked at and kind of going through that support system every single time I got a denial and building myself back up and getting the courage to even start it again, knowing that the last 4 times has been a shit show. So yeah, man, that was it finally got there. Like you said, for 12 years for you, 10 years for me. I finally got there through the support of my veteran, brothers and sisters in the community, through the amazing support of my wife, who really knew that I should be getting more than they told me I should be getting. So that was my experience. It was, it really was. I think you mentioned this, Joey. Sometimes it's more traumatic than the experiences you've had in the military. Actually trying to work with an organization that is doing all they can to help you, but they have such a volume of people coming through that everything has to be perfect. It makes you feel a little bit less than worthy of the benefits that you feel like you deserve.
That is so true. Now, Saint, when you hear us kind of talking about those, I know you've experienced it, of course, having to get your first sets of denials, or that the not so consummate to your injuries or disability 80%, which is not small, and you even spoke to the highlights of that. It's not nothing, but it's something where it kind of strikes at the sense of validation, right? And that's what you're kind of touching on, Nick, where you get this thing that you worded it perfectly for yourself, the way that we were raised, born in the communities of military, right? And then in the sense of self, we have to create the words out of either our mouth or articulate it to a medical professional that may or may not be a military veteran, or even, I don't want to say indoctrinated, but at least well established in understanding the community, right? What was that initial sense of not just denial, but that success with Remedical? How did that feel? And what was the I want to say the clarity that you obtained from that?
Yeah. Am I allowed to curse on here?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. It was when I got that paperwork back and the back pay and everything, I was like, holy shit. Like I don't have to dip into my savings. Like my rent's, I'm good. Like, whoa, this is insane. And I experienced nothing compared to what you guys did. Like to put this into perspective to anyone listening, these guys essentially, as long as I was in the military and then some, almost damn near double my time in the military, you guys were dealing with VA bullshit, which absolutely boggles my mind. That means had I started at 18, I would still be dealing with it, potentially still dealing with it. And I already know what it was like not getting, it wasn't even so much the percentage. It was more of just like, how did I get denied this? Like, how are these injuries and these disabilities denied? Like that, it boggles my mind. I'm just like, but I was just like, you know what? Like, I'm just grateful that I got anything. Like, and like I said, it's not nothing. Like I'm happy, but something I try to articulate to people is that one, right, as we've mentioned multiple times in this podcast, we don't like asking for help and we don't like saying that we're hurting. But now you're telling me after getting out of the military, we are going to have to essentially say how bad we're hurting when we've been saying and denying and like pushing it down how bad it hurts our entire career. Like that is ingrained in our heads, still is, you know? So now now we have to describe how badly we're hurting when we're going to downplay how badly we're hurting. And on top of that, it wasn't, obviously there are exceptions to this rule, but it was not our job. It was not in the military to learn medical terms, to learn how we feel, how certain movement, like the way to articulate in a way that triggers like someone in medicine to be like, oh, it's really hurting. Like we don't learn those terms. It wasn't our job to learn those terms. But now we're expected, in order to get the help that we deserve, to find out all these things, know what to say, right? When that's not really what it's supposed to be about.
And speak on their level.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be about that. And that's what I love about Ree is like, you guys know firsthand having to find your own resources and going through stop after stop after stop. And it takes a lot. It takes a toll getting denied. It takes a toll. This is not just like disability ratings in general. Like this is generally in life. It takes a toll getting constantly denied for something that you know, it's like, oh, okay, like I deserve. When you finally get to a point where you're like, okay, I deserve some help, or you know what, this is pretty bad. Like I am not as healthy as I'd like to be, and as I've been playing. It takes a lot to get to that point in the first place. And then to go through the VA and try to describe it in a way where you have to really, it sounds dumb and people might not understand this, but man, you got to make yourself sound like a bitch when you go to the VA, like to get them to approve you or like, listen, like you gotta walk in there looking like you're homeless sometimes. Like you gotta tell them like, oh, I feel this and that. Like it feels terrible. And it's just like, dude, no one wants to talk about themselves like that. Nobody. And when you finally swallow your pride enough to at least admit you're hurting, and then you're like, they're just like, sorry, you know, get fucked, go kick rocks. You know, like we're gonna approve this guy over here that it boggles my mind that I got approved and you guys went through 10 to 12 years of hell. I'm like, you're telling me you're going to approve me, but you like made these guys go through all of that, you know? And like, mind you, we're painting the VA in a pretty bad light right now. And it's not necessarily the people. Okay. It's more of just like,
it's the process. You know,
okay?
I mean,
it's not like they're out to get you, but it's just the process.
It's the volume. It's the process and the volume as well. You know?
Yeah. Like if I'm like, they're gonna be if I'm getting literal like hundreds of thousands of people getting sent my way, it's like, yeah, I'm not going to read your stuff word by word. I'm going to like glance through it, look for trigger words, look for like, oh, do they have a special? Oh, okay, this one's got a specialist. Cool. They might not, no matter how bad you're hurting, they might not have ever even gotten to read how bad it was, you know? But I guarantee you,
they don't even get to that point.
It doesn't even get to that point. It's not your fault. It's definitely not your fault, but you'll feel like it's your fault. And that might make you give up. Like we can't, there's no metric on how we can measure how someone's going to react, you know? So you might give up. You might just altogether stop, like which a lot of veterans do, you know? But you go through one-stop shop, send them your stuff. They'll flat out tell you we can help you. They can't. They can't. You know, they're not gonna. They'll flat out let you know, okay, we can help you with this. If they can't, they can't. But if they can, you know, I can guarantee you, having gone through them myself and getting to work with the staff and trying to like work through them of like, how can we help these people more? How can we get them to understand what's going on more? Like they're there to help you. This is not like the highest paying job. They're there because they don't want people to go through the pain that they went through, you know?
Exactly. And that's perfect because to me, you're not just telling us your stories, both of you. You're setting and managing expectations. Okay. And that's excruciatingly important. I think that's also something that the VA should spend a little bit more time, as well as other veteran service organizations. It's very important for them to very much so express explicitly and manage expectations, because that is what's creating these 22 a day, you know, the suicides by whatever at the parking lot as they're sitting on what they consider proof, right? This has happened multiple times. You know, people emulsifying themselves in front of the New Jersey VA hospital. That's where you light yourself on fire. Shit got lit. Now, what I mean by that is managing those expectations aren't just a one-way street. That's also our responsibility, because you're right. You know, we have this illusion of commitment to our country, to our service organizations, such as, you know, military or the VA. And I do feel obligated to not just paint the VA in a bad light. But here's my takeaway. If I'm getting paid hundreds, not just a couple, not just one or two, okay, sweet stuff, not just 10, not in 1 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, but hundreds of billions of dollars annually, okay, I cannot remove myself from that obligation or sense of obligation to fulfill at a level that's commensurate to that dollar amount, right? And that's how I felt in the military. You know, like I'm getting paid. You know, I got bonuses and whatnot and all this extra stuff. And I felt 100% obligation to go above and beyond, not just what my senior enlisted, not just what my officers wanted, not just what the book said, but what I determined was the status, or I should say standard of care for my Marines, my sailors, whoever walked through my door. This is my standard of care, right? And I go above and beyond for my guys. And so when I came over to the VA, it was a culture shock. I couldn't believe it. People were like, you guys are all just a bunch of dirtbags trying to get benefits. I'm like, this is not a welfare office, buddy. You know, we're not here because somebody said somebody's giving head for free. You know, like the Adam Sandler. I don't know if you're old enough to remember that. I know Nick is, but Adam Sandler had a record back in the day. And the whole concept was, one was a goat, but the one about the head, right? And it was just a very funny line. And to me, it's not like that. Nobody's just sitting around kicking a can going, I wonder how I can scam the system. And don't get me wrong, they're out there. People have done that, and there's examples of it. But the examples don't overweigh the failures of what we've seen in the community, okay? And personally, I go, if we're going to exemplify the good parts of what the VA can and can't do, we need to exemplify the parts where these third parties are coming in. You know, the contractors with the VA, they're being trained by the VA. They're getting PowerPoints by the VA. They're getting points to deny, reject, and look for anything. Oh, you can click a mouse? Oh, you're not fucking retarded at all. Like, no, Mom, what? You asked me to. You're showing me how to. Like, why is this even a part of a medical evaluation? If I know how to manage a website, I don't know how to, I can click it. I didn't write JavaScript, homie. Like, I'm just here clicking the website. This is how you fill out a claim because it says, click here. I can read. Okay. Like, where is this spectrum of denial and standard coming from? And that's what I want to dig into is what is the experience like when you go to Remedical? Are they going to do the same things that these other evaluation services or service-connected evaluation services do, where they stare at you like a guinea pig and go, okay, jump. And you're like, I don't know. What do you mean? How high? Oh, so you knew how to ask questions. Okay, nothing wrong with you. Like, bro, we're supposed to behave in a society, right? And even with my conditions, I've had to learn the hard way. Okay. Nobody cares. They will call the cops on you. There will be a security guard in the office with the hand on a gun before you can say, I'm just angry. Like, I'm just upset, frustrated. I'm not even mad at you. I'm just frustrated about the circumstance, the process. And that's something that I did have happen. I had a security guard walk in and his hand was on his weapon. I'm like, bruh, what's going on? What's going down, dude? Oh, me? You're here for me. Wow. That's interessante.
Yeah.
Taking Spanish class. That's interesante. Duolingo. Take it up. And the dynamic of the behavior that, like you were saying, the contrasting aspects of you have to walk in there disheveled and weak and febrile and be like, oh, I'm broken. And I'm like, I don't know any Marine that is like, I can do that. Right. I don't know any military service member that can do that. Like hand over fist. Most people go, I'm all right. Everything's fine. It's good. My guy, I had people with no legs, right? They're amputees now, and they're getting 10%, 30% ratings on their amputations because it's not on the key fingers over here on the hand. And I'm like, bruh, which finger's not important? Because God made it all 5, dog. Like, I'm pretty sure all 5 of them, or I should say 10 of them, right? I don't even know how to count. All 10 of them are pretty important, or else they wouldn't be there, right? Like for you, Nick, like I'm pretty sure 100% of your lung capacity is important, right? But the VA is like, you're all right. I always find that interesting.
You're good.
Yeah, you're fine, or your leg can grow back. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I knew someone who the VA wanted to take away his disability because they were going to pay for his prosthetic. And it was a really nice prosthetic, like a robot so they're like, oh, your arm's better than it was when it existed. So like, we're going to cover it, but now we're going to, I was just like, how? I couldn't believe when I heard it. I was like, that's a possibility. Are you kidding me? And to speak to your point, the VA, I think a good way to put it, because we want to keep it kind of simple for people to understand. Good way to put it is the VA is going to do everything they can to make sure that you're someone that needs help, that actually needs help. Whereas Remedical will do everything that they can to make sure you get the help you need. Like they're not going to.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah. One's making sure that you are somebody that needs help, and they're going to make sure you jump through every single hoop to show them that, whereas the other person's going to jump through every single hoop to make sure that you get the help you need. Remedical has people, their network, it's their job to understand these medical terms, not yours. So instead of you describing them to them, they're going to make sure like, okay, are you feeling the kind of whatever the insert pain here? Right? It's not like, okay, tell me how it is that you're feeling, and I'm going to make sure that you say the exact right thing that you don't know how to say in order for me to say like, okay, then he's definitely feeling it if he says that. Now, Remedical, they will ask you, hey, are you feeling pain on your worst day? Are you feeling this kind of pain in your shoulder that you have written down here? Like, are you feeling this kind of pain on your worst day? Is this the kind of pain that you would feel? They lay it out for you and they word it for you. And it's just a simple like yes or no. You don't have to like dig into your head and swallow your pride and make yourself feel like shit and then to make yourself sound like shit,
I mean, you're already a pile of shit. Let's not lie. Let's not lie. We're already all piles of shit by that time. Yeah. Okay. So we're just trying to polish the turd over and not make the turd speak for itself, because you nailed it right on the head, right? Where the one and the difference, and it made me have this flashback of one of my evaluations where the guy, I walk in, he goes, "So why are you here?" I'm like, what? Yeah. So describe to me what's going on. I'm like, well, which part? Well, the part you're supposed to be here for. I'm like, well, I don't know which appointment this is. I had like 6 today. And they're like, well, if you don't even know why you're here, why would I be evaluating you? I'm like, so the green side of me came out, and I'm not saying that's the time the guard came over with the hand on the gun. That was not it. But there was an absolute sensation of, I want to throat punch you so bad, and
just feel your
for my safety. Yeah, it just starts going. The whole like Super Saiyan mode goes, right, kicks up. And I'm like, you know what, dude? Like, all right. And that shuts me down, right? Because the fear of being arrested and then being treated like a 5150. I grew up with parents that were in corrections. Okay. So my fear is to never, ever go to prison. Ever. Jail, maybe. I'm like a couple nights. Okay. But prison, like state, federal, like F you in the A, prison? Nah, dog. Like I did one of those 5-minute, like take your kids to freaking work day, and they showed us all the shanks and all the blow darts that they make, bombs, guns. And I'm like, so alcohol. I'm like, dude, these guys do nothing but spend time on how to hurt, maim, or kill each other. P.S. You are going to live in a 4-foot by 6-foot freaking concrete nothing. And then your bed is a concrete nothing. And what you drink and shit and piss in sink that's it. That's you, bro. I'm like, no, never in my life. They closed the door. I said right then and there, whatever it is I have to do, I'm never going to be there. Never. I don't care what it is. I don't care who it is. I don't care what the hell's going on. So I'm gonna be like, oh, so you're mad? They could poke me all they want. I'm like, I'm not punching you. I'm killing you in my head, but I'm not punching you. Like, no, I'm just gonna file a complaint because I learned how to get a lawyer. Okay. So that's kind of like my point, where you have these experiences that push people to the edge, right? And beyond. And the proof is right there in the 22 plus a day suicides, right? But how many more people aren't killing themselves and outright denying themselves, telling themselves no, right? Before they even attempt to take care of themselves long term, that longevity, like you brought up, Saint, which is very important. And Nick, you hit on it too. Go ahead.
I mean, you made a great point, man. I mean, just in my time here at and really trying to dig in and find the true numbers of what you had just made. Like, how many are there that aren't getting the help that they need? Saint, something that you said earlier, it's, Remedical is going to be transparent with you and honest with you and let you know that, hey, this is an 80% rating. This might not be 100% rating, or this is a 60% rating, but we're still going to fight our asses off to help you get that. But, I think it was 2022 numbers, 18.5 million veterans in our community right now, right? And there's an estimated 14.8 million disabled veterans. That's roughly 80% of the total veteran population. And we're not talking about a full 100% rating, but we're talking about a service-connected disability. But the VA numbers are shocking, right? Like only 5.4 million veterans are actually getting any sort of, and this is 5.4 out of 14.8 are getting any sort of disability whatsoever. And there's only about 1 million veterans in our country that are able to get are currently getting that 100% rating. And that's just shocking if you look at the float pool and like the veteran community as a whole that we talked about, like 18 million veterans nationwide. In that community, 14 million are disabled, 80%. So, looking at that, you don't have to get to that point. If a good indicator is if you got any sort of medical from the military or whatsoever from the VA on getting out, and you felt like they were just kind of like shunning you and saying, hey, take this and be happy, that's when you need to advocate for yourself, and you need to go and you need to find someone who's going to fight for you. Because as Saint said, they're pushing people through at such a volume that it's impossible for them to truly see and truly understand what you're going through. So there's a huge amount of people that are not getting what they need to get right now. This isn't a small portion of the veteran community or veteran population. This is widespread and something that we need more people fighting for our veteran community for these benefits.
Exactly. We need to start advocating for ourselves, right? So like in the combat mentality, you need to pivot and change your aspect of warfare, right? And I love combat, right? I ran Sun Tzu. That dude's smart as hell. But at the same time, if we don't pivot and change our course of action or our energies, we're going to repeat the same instances of failure. Okay, whether it be ourselves personally, you, I, Saint, Nick, everybody, as well as the community as a whole, right? If we don't articulate or advocate or create a resonance of, hey, we're not trying to screw anybody, we're not trying to get something we don't deserve, we're trying to gain an equitable sense of voice and performance, okay? And as a community and as a society, we got a lot of things to work on like that, of course, but let's go ahead and start breaking down each problem as its own individual one. Let's create the baby steps that will create that path to success, like we've discussed with Remedical. Now, to pivot a little bit better in the conversation, let's go ahead and tell people, how do we connect, Nick, with Remedical, and where would the regions be for Remedical?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Remedical is a nationwide network. If you're a veteran, if you're an American veteran, I know that we even work with some veterans that are in other countries, American, U.S. veterans that are in other countries. So Remedical is 100% nationwide, and one of the things I mentioned earlier that really makes Remedical stand out is the fact that they've put so much effort into actually developing an internal network nationwide of medical specialists and practitioners, of people that are trained on the VA processes and actually work with you, as Saint put it. So if you're a disabled veteran nationwide, this service is absolutely for you. There's nowhere we don't cover, and there's nowhere we don't work with you and don't have resources. And we have a 100% free consultation link, and that's where Saint was mentioning we are 100% transparent with the veteran community that we work with. If you're right at where you need to be with the VA, and our medical network knows that, they're going to be transparent with you. They're going to tell you that, but they're going to tell you that for free. So there's no reason not to reach out. So yeah, there is a really great kind of landing page for anyone just wondering if this service is right for them, or if Remedical can really help them in their situation. And it's a quick consultation, and it's very eye-opening for where you are, where you should be, and the process that we can help you get through in that. So yeah, would love to share that link with the community and everyone listening.
Nice. That link will be, of course, on the show bio, but let's go ahead and say it for our listeners. I believe it's
it's remedical.com/free consultation. And Google that. It'll take you straight to the page, and reach out to us.
And also follow them. They're on Instagram, I believe, on all major social media platforms. And it doesn't matter if you're going to reach out for them for yourselves, listeners, because I understand a lot of the listeners on our that listen on our show, that listen to the show, right? We have listeners all across the world. That's what I love that you brought up, that it's not just limited to the United States. If you're a veteran abroad and you come home for some evaluations, bro, take care of yourself, because I understand that America's not the dream anymore for everybody. And I don't like saying that, to be honest, but I also will not shine light on it. Yeah, it used to be, but now I'm seeing people living life in Puerto Rico, in the Dominican Republic, of course, Alaska and Hawaii, but just in places like Costa Rica, even, Mexico. There's a lot of different places where the dollar will go a lot further. And when you take care of yourself, you can go ahead and see that become actualized. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Being American, not America is phenomenal. Just FYI.
Yeah. So, just building on that, experiential wise, you being an influencer, right, Saint? Imagine, because I love painting pictures where we can take it off for our listeners to go ahead and paint for themselves, right? Imagine being able to get yourself taken care of, like Saint has been able to establish himself. He's not afraid of getting kicked out of his house anymore. I guarantee you that was a stressor, dipping into your savings. I mean, I went through the homelessness thing, and I went through trying to be the good guy of maintaining my house. I lost my house and all this different stuff. Very horrible experiences, right? But at the flip side, I get to talk to a young man like Saint, right, and Nick, and say, hey, we don't need to be repeating this, okay? I don't want people to legitimize a service such as, the homelessness program. Let's avoid that. Let's go ahead and create something where things are good, where you're established, you're financially set. You have the foundation to launch yourself and your family, right? For yourself, as an influencer, I can see this going way further than anything, hitting up Costa Rica with your shirt off because you're an attractive young man. I can't pull that off. Okay. I got some man titties, but what I'm saying is some people like that dad bod. I don't. But if you're out in Costa Rica having a good old time, right? Or if you're out in freaking sunny San Diego, okay, doesn't mean whale's vagina, just so we're clear. It's something where you can definitely say, hey, look, take care of yourself so you can get to this place. Take care of yourself so you get to that place. Have fun with your friends. Live the life that your friends don't get to anymore because they made a permanent decision or they lost their life during service, which one that may be. Or even the ones that are losing their lives every day by terms of our own community, sucking it up buttercup, right? That's not how we teach our future generations to take care of themselves, or there won't be one, right? So I really want to go on to the social media aspect for you, Saint. How do we connect more with you as the individual, not just, the gentleman that talks about Remedical?
My TikTok and Instagram are all Saint Yim, SAINTYIM. And if there's any of my followers on here that are interested in getting to Remedical, there's a link in my bio. It's the first one. And I make sure that everyone knows that it's okay, veterans only, click here. I'll be having a podcast soon for the very reasons that there's so much more I want to bring than telling people how to smell good or what to wear and whatnot. TikTok and Instagram are great, but it's not the best medium for really, really connecting with people there's not much of yourself you can show in 30 seconds to a minute.
OnlyFans would disagree.
You did. I know OnlyFans girls, so some of them are my friends, and if you guys think you're paying to talk to them, you're not. You're talking to someone else. I promise you, because
you're talking to some 50-year-old dude, no hair,
to manage all their stuff and talk to people for them. They're just
I feel like that's the new age, dial 1-800 dial a girlfriend,
Dude, it's
remember
so
back in the day?
Oh man,
the 1900s.
I was only here for 5 years of that.
TV.
Yeah. Oh man, that's perfect. So TikTok, Instagram, that's Saint Yim. Of course, check them out. Check out remedical.com. Get that free evaluation. Click those links. Check them all out, people. And we're going to go ahead and wrap it up with some shout outs, guys. Nick, let's go ahead and hear your shout outs first, brother.
Yeah, just want to thank all of the veteran service organizations that we work with and that are doing amazing things for the community. Right now, working with the Travis Manion Foundation to throw some really great events for the veteran community coming up around the Army-Navy game that's coming up in December. That's going to be great. And just the veteran community that supported me. And the biggest of all, just want to shout out to the ReMedical team who had the vision to create a partnership program that really gives back, not only shines a big spotlight on what other veteran service organizations are doing, but also is financially giving back to those organizations as well. So just want to shout out to the team here at ReMedical and everyone in the veteran community that has helped me get to where I am.
Awesome. Beautiful. Saint, shout outs, my brother. Maybe some of those OnlyFans chicks.
No. I do. Like, I know my girl homie's got to get the bag, but I wholeheartedly do not support subscribing to stuff like that. I'm just kind of like, you guys need to man up and not be doing that. But I will say,
save your money.
Yeah, I will say a huge shout out to Ree. I mean, I'm not. There's two members I will keep. I won't say their names because I do want to keep them, respect their privacy. But the person that handled my paperwork passed away during the time that they were handling my paperwork, and within a week or two, it was handed off immediately to someone else so that they could keep my process moving forward. But Christina was the one that kind of connected me with the ReMedical team when she remembered that they had helped me and that I had been on social media. And for me, I originally was like, I want to do what you guys are doing at ReMedical. Like, how can I help bring this to more veterans? And they're like, you essentially got to do what someone else did for you. And I was like, okay, never mind. Like, that is a whole-time job. I do not have the time for that. But I'm so glad they reached back out because now I can do what I do best, which is, use my platform to spread awareness. So huge shout out to Christina. Brian, someone is part of the ReMedical team, stay in constant contact with him. Lindsay, Libby, MJ, and Macy. I remember every single person in ReMedical that I've worked with thus far because they really did make such a huge impact on my life. And it's working with them constantly has just shown me like these are good people. Like I said, they're not here because Re pays a ton of money to them. Like, they are here because they want to make, every single one of us wants to make a difference in a community that's very near and dear to our hearts. So yeah, just shout out to the ReMedical team. Nicola as well. I think I forgot to mention her name, but that's every person I've worked with thus far in Re. Nick, it's nice to finally meet you as well. But ReMedical is here to help you guys, and I'm just here trying to spread the word about them.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, listeners. So that's the show for today. Thank you for listening to the Devil Doc Talk Show. We did a little bit of an in-depth with Saint Yim and Nick Todd here about ReMedical. Give them a check out. Check them out. I'm serious about it. You don't need to be struggling. You don't need to be looking at, death in the face. You don't need to be Mr. Tough Guy. Okay. Come in, get your things looked at. Look at your paperwork. Don't give up. The struggle is real, but the success is also real. We have two different stories here today that were brought on. Nick's completely like mine, sadly enough, and Saints is the opposite, which is exactly the goal that we want. And that's something that is exemplified through the opportunity by seeking assistance through ReMedical. Okay. Now that doesn't mean everything's going to be perfect. Manage that expectation. Okay. Present your case, be you. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to fluff things up. Don't try to blah, 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 blah. Get in there, take care of your stuff, and get living. And that's something I really appreciate about what you do on your social media there, Saint, is that you're not focusing on being that broken veteran. You're not focusing on being that veteran in need. You're focusing on that being that person that you can emulate. Others can take a look at and say, hey, I like some of what he's doing, and I'm going to do that too. And so if I get to that next spot in life, I get to that next waypoint, that next anchor point, climbing this mountain or spelunking down in that cave, right? I know I have resources to get my ass out of it and into a better position. So I couldn't be thankful more than enough for both of you guys coming on, spending, of course, a little extra time with us. We're going to get this chopped up for our listeners, and always be sure to listen, like, and share. And that's the show. Thank you for coming on.
Internet. Yeah, hello. Utilizes and dollars number of the one and he's yes, yeah, for them represent that or is number 6 because he has no shit.
Well, I didn't need to sit.